millions of innocent people being displaced, all at the cost of tens of billions of dollars and destroying Trump's coalition. Check your scoreboard, Adam. How's it looking for you?
Already lost the debate. You live in America, tough guy. You have the luxury of sitting in your little studio with your hooded sweater like you're 17 years old. The regime, you mean all American presidents?
I'm 17
Who's your
years
favorite
old. I have a wife and children. Who depends on you, Adam? Your mom?
Okay, I also have
if you want to make it personal,
other, so you want to go personal?
You have a significant other. Okay.
Oh, we're doing this today. We are absolutely doing this. So apparently, Dave Smith and Piers Morgan, and look, I have my issues with Piers, but credit where it's due, they both went after Adam from the PBD podcast. And from what I'm hearing, it did not go well for our friend Adam. Now, here's why this matters right now. We've got Trump's whole no more endless wars promise sitting there like a bad joke while the Middle East is actively on fire. The contradictions are stacking up, and somebody finally decided to call them out on camera. I genuinely don't know exactly what went down in this exchange, but I've been told it's quite something. So we're going to find out together. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started.
The majority of Biden supporters still supported him, and like there was still going to be like 40-something% of the electorate would have voted for Joe Biden. Now, that wasn't enough, though, and that's why they forced him out, because you need a coalition to carry you here. So this comes down to like how you're defining MAGA. If you want to say Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz and all these guys, they're not MAGA. Well, okay, but they were relevant enough for Donald Trump to go on all of their shows in the campaign. And the point is that the coalition that got Donald Trump elected in 24, that got him for the first time ever to win the popular vote, that coalition has been destroyed. And the final thing I'll say is this, Piers, I made this prediction on my show the other day, but right now you kind of have these two, broadly speaking, camps, say Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, maybe people like me, who are saying the coalition has been destroyed. And then on the other side, you have people like you played Bacha, Ben Shapiro, who are saying, no, the coalition is fine. What we've learned is that Tucker Carlson doesn't matter. Give it a couple months, Piers, and I promise you, everyone on that side will say the coalition has been destroyed and it's Tucker's fault. This is going to tank Donald Trump's presidency. We're already past the point of that. The Democrats are going to win the House and the Senate. It's going to be impeachments and subpoenas and investigations for the next 2 years. And I don't think anyone from this administration can win the presidential in 28 at this pace.
Right. Well, Adam, you're part of a very successful podcast. Patrick Bet-David's been a regular on this show, as have other members of your great team. And, I would say just from a personal, you can only judge it personally, I guess, but I've been on some of the biggest TV shows, mainstream TV shows you could think of, right? America's Got Talent for 6 years. Britain's Got Talent. I replaced Larry King at CNN. They aired my show 3 times a day in America and around the world, and so on and so on. And what's been fascinating to me in the last couple of years is I get more people come up to me in the street, wherever I am, whether it's New York, LA, London, Sydney, the Middle East, whatever. More people come up, and they're a bit younger than came up when I did any of those shows. And they're all coming up about my YouTube show, and they're all watching it avidly, and they're watching other shows like yours, like Dave's, Tucker, because they talked to me about all this. I had 2 guys last week from Denmark, 19 I think they were, stopped me in the street in West London. Passionate viewers of Uncensored. Right? It was really fascinating to talk to them. So I just think this idea that people who operate away from mainstream media now, like you, like me, like Dave, like others, that we're kind of irrelevant and no one knows who we are, is completely contradicted by reality. I just see it in the streets. So I don't know whether it's self-preservation going on, that the mainstream media doesn't want to accept there's been a shift in power, but what do you think?
So we're talking about the mainstream media, so how much trust do you have in the mainstream media? But so let me answer that. So number one, Piers, great to be with you. Dave, good to see you. It's been a little while, and thank you for dressing up, Dave. The question that you're asking is, are young people watching social media and they're watching YouTube? Obviously, duh. My mom still watches the news at 8 p.m. and if she misses it, that's it. She doesn't see it. She hasn't figured out how to get on social media. She still tries to ask me how to find me on YouTube and on Instagram. But yes, the 35 and under crowd is on social media. And I'll tell you an anecdote. I'm a registered independent. I never would voted for Trump. And then I, had common sense and realized, do you vote for Trump, who might be brutish and an a-hole, or you vote for a weak, feckless, I wouldn't even call it leader like Kamala, and obviously the choice is pretty easy. But I would debate with my liberal friends, one that was very, very, very tight with the Clinton people, part of the Hillary campaign. And he noticed as I was starting to become more, let's just say, less Trump hating. This is in 2023, 2024, run up to the election. And then he goes, dude, I don't even know what happened to you. You're like full on MAGA now. I go, no, I just have common sense. I see what's going on the radical left, and it's so un-American to me. And he goes, yeah, you're just in your little YouTube world. I'm in the real world with the real politicians and the real polls. I got the real stuff going on. I go, hey, buddy, his name is John. I go, John.
Okay, so Dave Smith just laid it out, and I need you to understand who Dave Smith actually is, because this context matters. This is a libertarian who has been screaming about non-interventionism for years. He's not some new voice suddenly discovering that Trump's foreign policy was a mess. He's been consistent on this the entire time. And what he's saying here, the coalition is shattered. The Rogan crowd, the Theo Von crowd, the Schultz crowd, these weren't Marja true believers. They were people who bought the pitch, end the wars, focus on America, stop bleeding money overseas. And what happened? The exact opposite. Now, Adam's sitting there and his big defense is what? I used to hate Trump, but then I got common sense? That's not an argument, mate. That's a bumper sticker. Here's what kills me. Dave is predicting something very specific. He's saying give it a few months and the people currently defending this mess will flip and blame Tucker Carlson for the fallout. That's not speculation, that's recognizing a pattern. When things go wrong, they never blame the policy. They blame whoever criticized it loudest. And the economic piece of this is crucial. Every dollar spent on military conflicts in the Middle East is a dollar not spent fixing roads or lowering costs for actual Americans. The base that showed up in 2024 didn't vote for more intervention. They voted for the opposite. Smith sees the writing on the wall, midterms are coming, and this trajectory, it's not sustainable.
This is the real world now, guy. Yeah, well, we'll see. So obviously, we see what happens in the election. This is not the type of person that likes to apologize, right? Comes up to me and he goes, Adam, I was dead wrong. You're right. This is a new YouTube world. Congratulations on all your success, Piers, and welcome to the YouTube world. It is what it is.
Okay, well, we're sort of in broad agreement there. Let's get to broad disagreement, I suspect, which is the way this war is playing out. I mean, Dave, I've really struggled to work out the upside for Donald Trump from the start of this. Doing this so close to the midterms, doing exactly what he said he wouldn't do, which is he was going to stop, attacking Middle Eastern countries. It was all going to be America first, a premium on sorting out American problems in America. And then suddenly he launches a war on one of the biggest countries in the Middle East, certainly one of the best armed. And all hell has broken loose, not least to the global economy, which is inevitably going to have, and already is having, a very detrimental effect on living standards for average Americans. If I'm an American that voted for Trump, I'm like, I don't get this. I might in a poll say, I get it, but I don't think I really get it.
Yeah, and then you also have to consider there, Piers, right? Like there's a sizable percentage of people who support Donald Trump, who approve of the job broadly that he's been doing, who maybe, look, we're 3 weeks or whatever into this, go, all right, I'll kind of give him a chance, we'll see. But if this doesn't turn into any type of win, and if it turns into a clear disaster, which it already seems to be, that's only going to hurt him more and more and more. I think, look, Piers, it's despite the fact that it is not in my incentives in some way as like a political commentator, like I hope this whole thing just works out great. And then I know that all the people who don't like me will say, ha ha, you were warning that this would be a disaster. I hope that I would much rather take that deal and live in that. But Piers, the other element there is that, right, we had the 12-day war in the summer. And I've certainly heard, I heard at the time, some on debates that we did on your show and others. And I've heard nothing but since then on social media that, you guys were so stupid. You were warning about exactly what we're seeing right now, which is what all of us were warning about who are critics of the 12-day war. And Iran didn't do that. And they were like, look, we got away with it. One and done. No Americans dead. And that's it. We don't have to do anything else. They spent the following 6 months bragging about how the nuclear threat had been totally obliterated. Now we find ourselves, Piers, back in this same situation. And as I mentioned last time on your show, the big picture here is that clearly the calculation changed for Iran. They no longer feel that it's in their incentive for self-preservation to not strike back and kill Americans or not do maximal damage. And now, clearly, with a younger, more radical Ayatollah who has not promised to not build nuclear weapons, they've made the calculation that actually they can't not give us a bloody nose, that they have to really make this cost us. Otherwise, we'll be back in another few months doing it again. And of course, at the beginning of this war, Donald Trump said this was a full regime change war and called for the people to rise up and overthrow their government. And the people did rise up, Piers, in support of their martyr Ayatollah and in support of this regime. I know you saw some of those aerial shots. There must have been hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets in Tehran, in the most liberal part of the country, supporting the regime. So I'm sorry, at this point, this just looks like a catastrophe. And the best we can hope for at this point is that it only ends up killing like 10,000 people, and it only ends up costing tens of billions of dollars rather than the 200 that Secretary Hegseth has asked for. And this all relies on two major factors. Think about this, Piers. It's not just that Donald Trump has to call it quit and declare victory or whatever, but then we got two other entities that are majorly involved in this war, Iran and Israel. Now, we know at this point, Iran is saying they're vowing not to stop. They talk a lot of bluster. Who knows? Maybe they will. But Israel, Piers, we all know they want the regime change here. In the 12-day war and in this war already, they've hit targets after Trump has clearly asked them not to. Who's to say they don't continue doing that? And it begs a real question of how we get out of this quagmire.
And now Piers Morgan, of all people, is making sense on this. I need to sit down for a second. Look, I have complicated feelings about Morgan. The man has flip-flopped on so many issues over the years that tracking his actual positions requires a spreadsheet. But here's the thing about Piers. When he's locked onto something, he doesn't let go. And right now, he's locked onto the fundamental contradiction that Trump sold himself as the anti-war candidate and then launched what appears to be regime change operations in Iran. But here's what the clip doesn't tell you. This shift from traditional media to platforms like YouTube that Adam's celebrating, it cuts both ways. Yes, new media creates space for voices outside the mainstream. Great. But it also creates echo chambers where people like Adam can insulate themselves from accountability. You can curate an audience that never pushes back. You can build a following that rewards loyalty over accuracy. And Morgan knows this because he's navigated both worlds. He came from legacy media, where your nonsense gets fact-checked by producers and editors. Now he's in spaces where the guardrails are whatever the algorithm rewards. The question isn't whether new media is good or bad. The question is whether we're using these platforms to get closer to truth or further from it. And when you've got people defending military actions that directly contradict the promises that got someone elected, that's not informed discourse. That's content creation as cover for incoherence. Smith and Morgan see it. Adam's drowning in it.
Right. So, Adam, you've had a little spat with Dave on social media. When he called it an illegal war of aggression on X, you said, "Come on, guy, read the room." Dave responded, "Let's not pretend you read, Adam." To which you replied, "I'm able to read scoreboards. You are losing big time." Do you still feel that? I mean, do you still feel that? Because I would argue that the scoreboards militarily absolutely would show that the United States and Israeli combined forces have inflicted enormous damage on Iran's military capability. I think that's inarguable. However, what I don't think has been properly factored in by the Americans and Israelis is the ability of Iran to wage an economic war in parallel to a military war. And that by controlling the Straits of Hormuz and by attacking, as they have done, their neighboring Gulf states, both oil refineries and tourist hotspots and so on, they've managed to freak everybody out and they've freaked the global markets. And this is incredibly damaging to Donald Trump because every day that Straits of Hormuz is shut, then you will see the impact for the next few weeks and months coming through the US economy and the global economy, but the US economy. You know, when fertilizer, when the impact of that being stopped comes through in a couple of months' time, it takes a while to cut through to the actual people of America. But it will, and when it does, it's going to be very damaging. Do you not think that the longer this goes on, the more of a miscalculation has been made here?
Look, I'm not the Trump is the all-be MAGA guy. I'm the guy that was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about this Trump guy. You know what? Oh, I got the fake news. Oh, Russia. Oh, it turns out, yeah, you know what? He's way better than the other side. So I had to use logic and a measured approach to get me to the point where I'm like, he's the guy. So I'll ask you another question. Let's say Trump wasn't here. What's Kamala doing?
Oh, no,
So
don't
everything in
get me wrong.
politics is binary.
I think Kamala Harris would have been a terrible president. I thought Joe Biden was a terrible president. And I've always said with Trump, I think I find myself agreeing with some of the things he does and disagreeing with others, which I think is the right way to deal with Trump. I think if you just judge him on what comes out of his mouth...
Well, that's just like with anything, Piers. You're not going to agree with everybody and disagree with that.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and look, when I came on the PBD podcast, I loved it because we disagree about stuff, and you guys come on, we disagree, we agree, but we never fall out over it, and nor should anybody, right? But on this specific call about Iran, I did say on day one, I think this is a massive gamble, and I don't understand the timing, and I think the capacity for this to go badly wrong is very high. The longer it has gone on, because Trump originally was like, this is over in days, then it's over in a couple of weeks, then everything started changing, then the regime change he said was going to happen with people rising up. None of that has happened. There are lots of reasons for it. I think the reason we saw so many pro-regime people hit the streets was they were not going to get killed doing it. We saw in January when people protested against the regime, a lot got killed. And obviously there are bombs flying around all over the cities of Iran, which will also put people off, I guess. So there are lots of reasons, I guess, why people are protesting or not protesting in certain ways. But to me, the justification for this war has changed so many times. It's made me think, I don't think Donald Trump has any clear idea of what victory looks like. Do you? I mean, if the regime remains intact and they keep their enriched uranium, for example, and they maintain control of the Straits of Hormuz, is that victory?
Well, look, this was not an easy decision. You think, these guys have been in power 47 years. Everybody in our microwave hustle society wants this done in the next 4 to 7 weeks. It's going to take some time. And we've already, I was talking to a good Navy SEAL, buddy of mine, Navy SEAL. He said, dude, we've taken out 80% of their military capacity. Not bad in less than a month. So let the guy cook a little bit. So you also talk about, Dave, that, oh yeah, they had people out there pro-regime. Yeah, nobody's denying that 10 to maybe 20% max of the country is pro-regime. But what about the 80% of the country? That's like if Dave had a comedy show, there was 100 people that magically showed up to Dave's comedy show. Oh my God, he has so many fans. Dude, there's 100,000 people outside that didn't go to the show.
Hold on. Did Adam just say, let the guy cook? Let the guy cook? We're talking about bombs falling on civilian cities and his defense is culinary patience. And that Navy SEAL buddy statistic, we've taken out 80% of their military capacity. Where is that number coming from? Because I've seen wildly different assessments from actual defense analysts. But sure, let's just trust the vibes from a buddy conversation. Here's what Adam keeps dodging though. Piers laid out something crucial that the clip actually undersells. The Straits of Hormuz situation isn't some abstract economic theory. 20% of the world's oil passes through that choke point. When Iran disrupts that flow, the fertilizer shortages alone will hammer American farmers within months. Food prices, gas prices, the exact kitchen table issues Trump supposedly champions. And Adam's response? What would Kamala do? That's not an answer. That's a deflection dressed up as a question. You can't defend a policy by gesturing at a hypothetical alternative. Kamala Harris isn't president. Trump is. These are his decisions. These are his consequences. The regime change that was supposedly imminent, still waiting. The days-long operation, we're well past that. The spontaneous uprising, never materialized. Every benchmark Trump himself set has been missed, and Adam's counter is, microwave hustle society wants results too fast. No, mate. We want coherence. We want the promises to match the outcomes. That's not impatience. That's accountability.
I'm not being like brutish or sarcastic, but just you're taking a small sample size and extrapolating that for the entire country. We all
Well, actually,
know
just to be clear,
who this regime
well,
is.
hang on, Adam.
We all know that this is a terrorist regime.
Just to
Go
be
ahead.
technically correct on that argument you're making, if 100 people turned up to watch Dave's show, then technically over 8 billion chose not to.
Correct, and that's pretty uniform at this point.
This is really making me feel bad about my numbers on the road.
It doesn't
here. I was feeling
necessarily
pretty
mean
good.
that
I've
8
been selling
billion
out shows.
people.
Yeah,
It
Dave,
doesn't
it's
mean there are 8
Dave,
billion people who don't like Dave Smith.
I used to own a couple. No, it's fine. I mean, I actually do like Dave Smith. Let me tell you a Dave Smith story. I actually have respect for Dave Smith, but I realized who Dave Smith is, and I would say this to his face or on camera. Dave Smith is a radical libertarian. Don't take my word for it. You've said this multiple times. Have you not, Dave Smith?
Said what? That I'm a radical libertarian? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yes. Okay, perfect. So when you're radical, what's another word
what I
for
believe in? Well, what I believe
what's
in is
another word
true
for
Americanism.
radical? Extremist. Okay, this is
These are
why
all
you
all
call
relative
America,
terms.
This is why you call. Sure. This is why you call the U.S. military the greatest terrorist organization on earth, right? Because you're a true American? Because you're a true patriot? Is that why, Dave? Because something tells me you have what is known as clickbait of the mouth. And you're using these instances, these wars, to garner attention for you. You have the American flag behind you, yet you have the hypocrisy of saying the United States military, United States is the greatest terror organization the world has ever seen. I mean, I don't understand what's going on here. This is why you're radical.
I didn't say
by
the
the way,
world's
Well,
speaking of radical,
I tell you what. Hang
I
on.
never
Just
said the world's
to be
ever
fair to Dave, let's replay what he actually said on this show, which caused all the furore, led by Ben Shapiro. We'll play what he said, and I'll play what Shapiro said about it, and then we'll come back to Dave for a response.
The IDF is the worst terrorist organization in the region. Let's get real. The United States of America is arguably the worst terrorist organization in the world. If you want to look over the last 25 years, how many innocent civilians we've slaughtered.
It doesn't matter, it turns out, how many times you appear on Joe Rogan's show or how many times you hide behind your title of comedian who holds the Guinness Book of World Records for fewest jokes told, or how many times you spew puerile analogies that demonstrate nothing but unbelievable, willful ignorance of the nature of war. I'm sorry, but you hate the country if you say America is the worst terrorist organization in the world. You just do. Now, I know that Dave Smith is super duper excited that his name was mentioned here. And he's sitting there shouting at his TV screen in his basement, "Debate me, bro!" To which I answer, nah. I don't debate with trolls who claim that America is the biggest terrorist state in the world because that is idiotic.
So, Dave, as you know, that all blew up. A lot of debate raged about it. Clarify what you meant. Do you regret phrasing it the way you did? Just give us a bit more meat on the bone.
No, I don't regret phrasing it the way I did, and I'll be very clear about what I'm saying. I will point out that it's quite something for Ben Shapiro. Just since you played him, I got to respond to him first.
Course.
That he goes, "Oh, I just won't debate with this guy because this is so beyond the pale." Ben Shapiro made his name debating 19-year-old communist Maoists who were confused about their gender. So somehow, Piers, we're going to have to believe here that I'm so much less serious than the children who Ben Shapiro made a career debating. I loved your response to him where you pointed out some of the goofy segments that he does on his show. I mean, personally, I really stay away from that stuff. And, for Adam, I think to say it's clickbait or that I just want to get out in front of the camera, I think we're all equally in front of a camera right now. And it's kind of weird to accuse someone else. I very much believe the things I'm saying.
Dave,
now, to Adam's point,
Dave, don't run from the comment.
Because there's a
don't
bunch.
run from your comment.
I'm trying to
Address
get to
the
it, but there's a
comment, not
lot
Ben
here.
Shapiro, would you?
Well,
good.
yes,
Let's go. Wrap it up.
No, I'm going to make the points I want to make.
You called the United States military.
You're just slowing. Okay, so
You
anyway,
called the United States military
order.
the greatest terror organization in the world.
Adam,
defend.
Just let me answer. No problem. I'm going to go back to the order I was going to go in. To Adam's point, when Adam says I'm a radical libertarian and I say that this is true Americanism, I mean, look, my favorite founding father is Thomas Paine. Not everyone considers him a founding father. And maybe I love him so much because he never held a government position and didn't own slaves, which I thought was pretty cool. But Benjamin Franklin said he was the most consequentialist and the one person most responsible for the United States of America existing.
See, this is where it gets fascinating. Adam calls Dave Smith a radical libertarian, like it's supposed to be an insult. Like that's the gotcha. But here's what Adam doesn't seem to grasp. Dave Smith has been saying the exact same things for over a decade. The man has receipts going back years. He criticised Obama's drone strikes. He criticised Bush's Iraq invasion. He's been ideologically consistent in a way that most political commentators can only dream of. And then Ben Shapiro gets dragged into this and, oh, Ben, refusing to debate because it's beneath him, when this is a man who built an entire brand debating college freshmen about gender pronouns. That's your intellectual legacy, mate. Destroying teenagers who haven't finished their political science coursework. But Dave Smith? Too extreme, sure. What Adam keeps missing is that the Libertarian Critique isn't coming from hatred of America, it's coming from a specific constitutional framework about what the military should actually be doing. Thomas Jefferson warned about entangling alliances. George Washington's farewell address explicitly cautioned against permanent foreign engagements. Dave invoking Thomas Paine isn't random. Paine wrote Common Sense, which literally sparked revolutionary independence. So when Adam tries to paint anti-interventionism as anti-American, he's actually arguing against the founding philosophy. The flag behind Dave isn't hypocrisy. It's a reminder that questioning military adventurism used to be the most American thing you could do. Adam brought ideology into this fight and immediately lost the historical ground.
His famous pamphlet that he wrote was called Common Sense. And I think on the first or second line of it, he says, government is at best a necessary evil. So at best, he's like, this is clearly on the anarchist to night watchman state spectrum was what true Americanism was when it started. Now, for me to say what I made the point, and I've made this point a million times on your show, Piers, I was saying when people come on and say Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism, well, just like give me an objective definition of what terrorism means, and then let's apply that standard universally. And if you're going to sit here and say, look, America has given billions, tens of billions of dollars to the IDF in the last few years. We've also, by the way, given a lot of weapons and money. Your first guest on this show there, the head of the Obama deep state, was using Al-Qaeda, bin Ladenite head choppers on the ground in Libya and in Syria. And yes, Adam, I would also consider it when our politicians lie us into wars that slaughter millions of innocent people and in many cases target those innocent people. I consider that terrorism as well. There's the answer, Adam. And if you want to keep doing this, buddy, you could tell me to check the scoreboard. I'll run circles around you on this, dude. Check the scoreboard. Most unpopular war in American history going in. Check the scoreboard. 13 dead Americans and 150 plus other wounded. Thousands of innocents, including little schoolgirls in Iran, killed. Dead innocent Israelis. Hundreds of dead innocent people in Lebanon. Millions of innocent people being displaced, all at the cost of tens of billions of dollars and destroying Trump's coalition. Check your scoreboard, Adam. How's it looking for you?
Okay, Dave. So, okay, it's not working well for you, Dave, because
substantively
you're
respond
still
to any
saying
of that,
that
Adam.
United States. You're saying the United States is a terrorist organization. You've already lost the debate. You live in America, tough guy. You have the luxury of sitting in your little studio with your hooded sweater like you're 17 years old. The regime, you mean all American presidents?
I'm 17
Who's your favorite
years old?
president in the last 50 years?
Adam, I'm 17 years old.
Who's your favorite president in the last 50 years?
I have a wife and children. Who depends on you, Adam? Your mom?
Okay, I also have
if you want to make it personal,
other, so you want to go personal?
You have a significant
Dave,
other.
we can go as personal as we can go.
No, I'm trying not to.
We can go as personal as you want.
Respond to one thing.
I don't care, Dave.
Adam, some substance.
I don't care.
I know, because you don't know anything.
Dave, you're a radical.
So move on. So
Okay.
stop picking a fight with me, dude. You don't know anything about anything. You're Pat's guy.
I know.
And I
Dave,
like
here's
you,
what
dude. I like you. I like your show. I respect Pat.
Dave, okay. Zip it. Here we go. I'll talk now for a second. I'm defending the military right now. You're basically saying that all our boys that go to the military are all terrorists. That's what you're saying.
No.
You're equating that the United States of America, the IDF, are the equivalent of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. By the way, I also used to respect you until you went on a little podcast called Coleman Hughes. What happened on that podcast, Dave? This is the problem. I'll tell you a quick story.
Why don't you do it right now, Adam? Why don't you do it?
I'll do it right now, Dave. I'll do it right now. Because here's what Dave is. Here's Dave Smith. By the way, 1% of Americans vote for libertarians every year. So you're trying to basically say that you know more than the average American. 1% of Americans vote for your people, Dave. Why don't you run for something? Why don't you stand for something? You stand for nothing.
Okay, can I respond? Again, Piers, this is the level of substance.
No. Here we go. I'm going to tell you a story, Dave, and then you can respond. Because this is where I lost respect for you as a debater. Because I was like, oh, this guy Dave, he actually knows some stuff. He's doing his thing. And then you showed up on Coleman Hughes' podcast. Piers, do you know who Coleman Hughes is?
I do. He's been on the show.
I've been on the show with him.
Perfect. That's this guy right here, just in case, if the camera doesn't see.
But what is the point you're making?
I watched this podcast. The point is this. Dave gets out there and he tries to bully people and say that he's so smart. He reads a lot of books. Good for you, Dave. But what happens when you read it to somebody, run into somebody who's way smarter and bullies the bully? I remember growing up in this town of Miami, so there was this kid that used to pick on all the kids that we went to school with. And one day, some new kid showed up, and he goes, oh, yeah, let's go, buddy. Let's do this. And the bully goes, oh, what do you mean? What do you want to do? And he goes, no, yeah, you want to fight everybody? You want to take everybody's lunch? Let's go. And the new kid beat the crap out of the bully. And here's what happened with Dave. He's out there just doing his little podcast thing, debating, like you said, Ben Shapiro, 19-year-olds. And then all of a sudden, this whole conversation about Wesley Clark, and I saw him on your podcast about a week ago, Piers, and this memo, here you go, Dave. Remember this memo from Wesley Clark that you used to cite everything?
This is adorable.
And that right there is where I need to just take a breath. Because what we've witnessed across this entire exchange isn't just a debate gone wrong. It's a window into something much more broken. Look at what happened when Adam ran out of actual arguments. He didn't pivot to better evidence. He didn't bring stronger data. He went personal. He mocked Dave's hoodie. He brought up some podcast appearance like it was a trump card. He literally pulled out a prop, a printed memo. Like we're in show and tell. That's not debate, that's desperation dressed up as confidence. And the 1% of Americans vote libertarian line, mate, that's not the intellectual slam dunk you think it is. Popularity doesn't equal correctness. Plenty of terrible ideas have been wildly popular throughout history. The question isn't how many people agree with Dave Smith. The question is whether what he's saying is true. And Adam never, not once, actually engaged with the substance. Here's what strikes me about this whole thing. Dave Smith laid out a coherent framework. He defined terrorism. He asked for universal application of standards. He cited specific costs. Dead Americans and displaced millions and tens of billions spent. He gave numbers. He gave historical context. He invoked founding documents. And Adam's response was essentially, you're wearing a hoodie and you lost a debate to Coleman Hughes. That's it. That's the entire intellectual counter-argument. This is what happens when ideology replaces analysis. When you're so committed to defending a position that you can't even hear the critique anymore. Adam genuinely believes he won this exchange. You can see it in his body language. And that disconnect between perception and reality, that's the disease eating political discourse alive right now. Piers Morgan, to his credit, actually tried to keep things substantive. And I'll acknowledge that's not always been his strength historically. But in this exchange, he was trying to moderate, while Adam was busy calling people teenagers and bringing out printed documents like evidence in a courtroom drama. The broader point here isn't about Dave Smith being right about everything. It's about the standard we accept for political debate. If someone makes a factual claim about civilian casualties and economic costs and broken campaign promises, you respond with facts. You don't respond with, who depends on you, your mum, like we're in a middle school cafeteria. And that Wesley Clark memo that Adam triumphantly produced, that memo has been publicly discussed for nearly 2 decades. It's not some gotcha that Dave Smith invented. Multiple journalists have reported on the alleged 7-country plan. You can disagree with its interpretation, but waving it around like you've exposed a fraud just shows you haven't been paying attention to the conversation. What I want you to take away from this is simple. Demand better. From commentators, from politicians, from yourself. When someone makes a claim, ask for the evidence. When someone deflects to personal attacks, recognize that as the retreat it is. When someone tells you to let the cook indefinitely while civilians die, question what meal they think is being prepared. The health of democratic discourse depends on this. It depends on us refusing to accept performance as substance. It depends on calling out when someone brings a prop to a policy debate. All right, if you made it this far, you're clearly someone who cares about actual political accountability. So do me a favor and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell because apparently that matters. And speaking of accountability, I recently watched Harry Sisson absolutely take apart Michael Knowles over the whole pardon situation, and it was genuinely something to behold. If you want to see what happens when MAGA talking points meet actual prepared pushback, that video is waiting for you. I'll leave the link. Go watch it. Tell me what you think. Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical, and for the love of democracy, stay engaged.